What if building your dream home didn't mean two loans, two closings, and two sets of closing costs? Normally, building a custom home means getting a short-term construction loan first, and then a whole separate mortgage once the house is done. That's two applications, two closings, two rounds of fees, and a lot of extra stress in between. A one-time closed construction loan fixes that. You close once, before construction even starts, and that same loan carries you all the way through the build. Once your home is finished, it automatically converts into your permanent mortgage. No second closing, no requalifying, just one loan, start to finish. It's available on both conventional and VA financing, and VA is especially strong here since eligible veterans can finance up to 100% with zero down, and there's no payment due at all during construction. On the conventional side, every builder still goes through an approval process, so you know exactly who you're working with. And if rates improve while your home's being built, your loan may even qualify for a rate reduction once it converts. And once your home is finished, there's a window to finalize everything and lock in your permanent mortgage, so it pays to move on that promptly. Now, if you want to see exactly how the draw schedule works, how the numbers break down, and what the timeline looks like step by step, stick around. I've put together a full walkthrough right after this that covers all of it.
So here is our roadmap for today's journey. We'll look at the one-time close advantage, builder and project approval, the single closing itself, navigating the construction phase, and finally, modifying to permanent financing. 5 simple phases. All right, part 1, the one-time close advantage. Let's say goodbye to double closing costs. Normally, traditional construction loans are just a massive pain point. You're looking at 2 separate closings. That means paying double the fees, and honestly, worst of all, the borrower actually has to requalify after the build is done. Just imagine the stress of your brand new home finally being finished, only to find out your credit score dipped or you changed jobs, and suddenly you don't even qualify for the permanent mortgage? No way. But with the UWM one-time close, you have exactly 1 closing and 1 set of upfront costs. And the absolute best part, you are completely approved after that first close. 0 requalifying required at the end. It's literally a game changer for saving time, money, and sanity. Now, to keep the whole project on track, UWM has set some specific parameters we really need to cover. You've got a maximum 90-day lock period, and escrows have to be waived during construction. But the real numbers you need to memorize for your timeline, the 11-month maximum build period, which is followed by a 1-month modification period. Oh, and there is a mandatory 5% construction contingency built into every single project budget. Why 5%? Well, because in construction, surprises just happen, right? Lumber prices spike, weather delays hit out of nowhere. This buffer is absolutely vital to ensure the project doesn't just stall out because of underestimated costs. And hey, if it goes unused, it simply reduces the principal balance. Total win-win. Okay, moving right along to part 2, builder and project approval. This is where we vet the team and the plans. Before a single shovel hits the dirt, UWM has to officially approve both the builder and the specific project. This step is huge for the borrower's peace of mind. UWM thoroughly vets the contractor using a really strict sequence of professional docs. We're talking a contractor questionnaire, their state license, workers' comp info, a W-9, and a valid ID. Now, in the construction world, waiting on approvals can drag a project down for weeks, costing everyone a fortune. But here, once you submit that standard package, UWM turns it around in a remarkably fast 1 to 3 days for initial review and approval. Boom, momentum stays high. Step 3, the single closing explained. Time to execute the paperwork. This single closing is the literal cornerstone of the entire program. The ink dries, the build officially begins. A key term to know here is the initial draw, often called the draw at close. Think of this as the critical seed money to get the literal foundation poured. On a purchase, these funds are used right out of the gate to buy the lot and pay the contractor to kick off the build. It is the spark that lights the fire on the whole shebang. But here's the kicker. This initial draw requested at closing is firmly capped at 10%. On a standard stick-built home, you have to plan around that strict 10% maximum, no exceptions. Sure, there is an allowance for modular or manufactured homes because those can sometimes draw 20 to 25% upfront since they're fabricated off-site. But for standard builds, that 10% cap keeps the initial risk carefully managed. Timing is everything, so you absolutely must manage your builder's expectations right at the starting line. You have to allow for exactly 5 business days from the UWM closing for this initial draw to actually be wired to the builder. During this 5-day window, UWM is working behind the scenes, setting up the borrower's account and getting everyone prepped. So definitely bake this 5-day buffer into your timeline. You really don't want to frustrate your contractor on day 1. Which brings us to part 4, navigating the construction phase, managing the draws and timeline. Once that initial draw goes out, the actual building starts. And the loan structure here is beautifully simple. During the construction period, borrowers make interest-only payments. And honestly, here's the coolest part. Those payments are based only on the funds that have actually been drawn, not the entire massive loan balance. It keeps monthly payments incredibly low while the house is going up. Then, once construction is completely finished, the loan smoothly transitions right into standard principal and interest payments for the permanent financing phase. Easy. Throughout that construction phase, funds are released incrementally based on the percentage of work completed. To put that into perspective, if you're financing a $400,000 build, that grants you 8 separate draws as work wraps up. If your loan is $250,000 or less, you get 5 draws. And every single time a draw is requested, it incurs a standard $195 fee. That fee simply covers the inspection to ensure the work was actually done right before releasing more cash. It's a highly structured, super secure way to keep the project moving forward safely. Finally, part 5, modifying to permanent financing, the final step. When the last nail is driven and the paint is dry, we hit the final sprint. Modifying the loan is a very specific sequence. It kicks off when the builder requests a final inspection. Next, they provide UWM with the final certificate of occupancy. Then, UWM conducts what's called a float-down analysis. And finally, a modification agreement is shipped overnight for the borrower to sign. With that single signature, the loan officially converts into a fully amortizing mortgage. Now, about that float-down analysis. During the modification timeline, borrowers are protected by an incredible feature, the interest rate float-down. What does this mean? It means if market rates actually drop during that 11-month build period, the borrower gets to take advantage of the better market and lower their permanent interest rate. It's an absolute win-win, giving them total peace of mind that they are locking in the best possible deal. Let's run the math real quick so you can see this in action. Imagine a borrower who locked in a note rate at 6.75% back at their January closing. But over the months it took to build, let's say by October, the market rate dropped to 6.5%. UWM adds a slight float-down adjustment, bringing their final permanent rate to 6.625%. They literally just scored a lower rate without lifting a finger. And what if rates had gotten worse instead? The borrower stays perfectly safe at their original 6.75% lock. Absolutely zero downside risk. How great is that? But listen up, because here is the single most critical takeaway for this final step, the 12-month rule. That modification agreement must be signed by the borrower within 12 months of the original closing date, period. If it is not signed in time, the borrower will be forced to go through the massive pain of requalifying. We're talking brand new income, assets, and credit documents all over again. You absolutely do not want to miss this deadline and put your clients through that completely avoidable stress.